Okay, so today we're going to be doing chapter 12, the fractions, ratios, and rates chapter in my book, Overcoming ACT Math by Sofia Garcia. So first we're going to go over some reminders. Remember, always look at the description for any updates to these. And I'm going to give a brief summary about some things that you need to remember before doing problems. So first let's go over these two formulas. So the first formula up here, y is equal to k over x, that's going to be for anything that's inversely proportional. So anytime it says that things are inversely proportional, you use this formula. And anytime that they say directly proportional, you have the option to choose this formula or to set up a direct proportion. So that would be the second one. And then over here, just remember these two formulas, speed times time equals distance and rate times time equals distance. Be careful with your units for these because, like, for instance, if you have the speed being in miles per hour, but they give you the time in minutes, you have to convert time to hours. Like, it has to be in the same units. These two have to be in the same units. You can't have, like, minutes and hours. You have to convert them to be the same. So just be careful with that because they like to trick you sometimes with that. And then also be careful with units in general because a lot of the times they'll like sneak in, like they gave you everything in inches, but they want the answer in feet, stuff like that. So if you have this book, attempt to do the problems on your own first and come back to explanations as needed. So let's go to number 1. It says, for the figure shown below, triangle ADE is a right isosceles triangle. So this triangle right here is a right isosceles. So isosceles means that two of the sides are the same. And if it's right isosceles, it means that this side and this side are going to be the same. So that's 3 as well. Point D is located on CE, like we see here. CD is equal to 9 and DE is equal to 3. What is the ratio of the area of ADE, so like this triangle, to the entire parallelogram is what we're trying to find. So first let's find the area of this triangle. Well, the area of that triangle is equal to half of base times height. So the base and the height are the ones that make the right angle with each other. So it would be half times 3 would be the area of ADE. And then we're taking that ratio, the ratio of that to the area of the entire parallelogram. Now, the area of an entire parallelogram is just equal to base times height. And again, base and height are what make a right angle with each other. So 3 right here would be your height, and then your base would be the other side that it makes a right angle with, which would be 3 and 9. So it would be 3 times 3 plus 9 is the base. So now we just have to multiply this to get 9 halves, and we have 9 halves too. This is going to be 3 plus 9 is 12. 3 times 12 is 36. So now we have a ratio of 9 halves to 36. Now, you can kind of think of ratios as the same sort of thing as fractions. That's usually the easiest way for students to think about it, as this is saying 9 halves over 36, which you can say is the same thing as 9 halves divided by 36 over 1. People usually prefer that method because they can keep, change, flip, and they're used to that. You can also like multiply each side by 2 to get rid of the denominator, and then divide by a common, the greatest common factor. Either way works. So then now what we're going to do is we have 9 halves divided by 36 over 1. Keep, change, flip means we have to keep the 9 halves, change division to multiplication, and then flip this to be 1 over 36. Now we can cross cancel these because 9 goes into 9 one time, it goes into 36 4 times, and we get 1/8. Now remember that fraction bar is the same thing as the little ratio dots, so it would be A. So now let's go to number 2. Which of the following is the value of all of this? So when you add and subtract with fractions, you need to make sure they have a like denominator. So I know that all of these can end up being 35 if I just multiply by a certain number. So in this case, if I multiply by 7, I get to 35. And whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do the top. So I'm going to multiply by 7 on bottom and top. That's going to give me 35 on bottom and 28 on top. And then if I multiply this by 5, again, I have to do the same thing on top and bottom, then I'm going to get 30 over 35. And then this one I can just keep the same because it's already over 35. So now whenever, this is supposed to be plus. So now what we're going to do is we're going to keep the like denominator, so that's going to be 35. And we're going to just add and subtract across for the numerators. So it's going to be 28 plus 30, that's going to be 58. And then 58 minus 9 is going to be 58 minus 9, whoops, that's 49. I was blanking for a second. And then we divide by 7 on top and bottom, and then that's going to give us 7 over 5. So it would be G. Okay, so now let's go to number 3. So y varies directly with x. So remember, when it's directly proportional, or like varies directly is another way that they could say it, it's this formula right here. So when x is equal to 4, y is equal to 32. So let's plug that scenario in. They're saying when x is 4, y is 32. So I'm going to put 32 in for y, and I'm going to put 4 in for x. Now I see, oh, I can just solve for k by dividing by 4 on each side. So k is equal to 8. Now I can say what k is in this scenario right here. I can just plug in 8. And then now I can solve the actual question, which says when x increases to 6, the value of y is, so when x is 6, what's the value of y? So we're going to plug in 6 for x, and we're going to get that y is 48. So it would be E. So now let's go to number 4. Sarah has won 6 spelling bees out of 15 spelling bees. At this rate, how many spelling bees should she expect to win for the entire semester if there are 20 spelling bees left in the semester? Okay, so she's won 6 out of the 15 spelling bees. And that's going to be directly proportional with x out of, and then for the entire semester, it's going to be the 20 spelling bees plus the 15 that she's already done. So basically this is a part to whole equals part to whole scenario, if you want to think about it like that. So then all we have to do is cross multiply and solve for what x is here. So if we cross multiply, we have 6 times 35 is equal to 15x. So then to solve for x, we just have to divide by 15 on each side to get x by itself. And when we do that, it should be, that would be 14, yeah. So that's just k. So let's go to number 5. For number 5, it says, Chloe is moving to a new apartment and has rented a moving truck with an extendable moving ramp that extends out of the back of the moving truck. For every 1 inch that the ramp rises vertically off the ground, the ramp will lengthen 35 inches horizontally. The ramp will rise 40 inches off the ground. Approximately how long in feet will the ramp lengthen horizontally? So let's set up a proportion for the scenario. So it's saying 1 inch vertically that it's rising. So 1 inch vertically. It rises 1 inch vertically for every 35 inches that it lengthens horizontally. So like the arrows are showing like vertical or horizontal. And then I'm going to say, okay, that's equal to, it says the ramp will rise 40 inches off the ground. So 40 inches off the ground would be vertically. So equal to 40 inches vertically, because these are going to match on top and on bottom. And then this has to be whatever X amount of inches horizontally that it's lengthening have to be, because you can kind of just think about it as like match the units on top and bottom if it's directly proportional, and then just cross multiply, solve for x. So I'm going to cross multiply. 1 times x is just x, and then 35 times 40 would be like the other way cross multiplied basically. So then when you multiply that all out, that's going to be 1,400. So it's going to be D. Oh wait, hold on. Is that one? Wait, hold on. That's 1,400. Oh, but it says in feet. Hold on. I forgot that. 1,400 is what we get for, that's inches, and we want feet. So we have to convert this into feet by saying there's 12 inches in 1 foot. So then we have to divide this by 12 to get, because if we divide by 12, we get how many feet it is. And when we divide by 12, that's going to be 116.6 repeating. So then it actually should be this one, B. So then let's go to number 6. It says, Ben has been traveling to work on a freeway averaging 50 miles per hour on his 2-hour round trip. Due to a carnival being in town, there is significantly more traffic. As a result, his trip has been extended by 30 minutes each way. Which of the following is closest to his average speed in miles per hour? So we're trying to find his average speed in miles per hour for a round trip, meaning he goes there and back, that he must deal with the traffic from the carnival. Okay. So, let's think about this. So, speed times, so this would be like when you're using the speed times time equals distance thing. You can also manipulate this to say distance divided by time could give you speed, because remember, we're trying to solve for speed, so that might be helpful at some step. So if he's going 50 miles per hour for 2 hours, 50 miles per hour is the speed that he's going there, and he has a 2 hour, for his 2 hour round trip. So that would be that he's doing 100 miles is the distance there. But then it says that there's traffic, so now like the time is going to be different, but he's still traveling that same distance. So if we're trying to find the speed, the distance is still going to be the same. It's going to be the time from the traffic that's different. So we have to ask ourselves, okay, what's the time? Well, it says that it's usually a 2 hour round trip, but now it's extended 30 minutes each way. So 30 minutes extra going there and 30 minutes extra coming back is an hour. So it'd be 2 plus 1 hour. So that's going to be 3 hours. So then if we just divide this, we get miles per hour, which is the unit we're interested in. So when we divide that, we're going to get 33.3 repeating miles per hour. And then it's closest to H. So now let's go to number 7. It says the value of this is, so this is just keep, change, flip. Each of the letters in the acronym aligns with what the step means. So K is keep, so you're going to keep 3/4. You're going to change the division to multiplication, and you're going to flip negative 7 over 16 to be negative 16 over 7. So then I see I can cross cancel here. 4 goes into 4 one time. It goes into 16 4 times. So then it's going to be 3 times negative 4 is negative 12, and then over 7. So it's going to be A. So now let's go to, and thanks guys for sharing and liking the live. This is ACT Math if anyone's interested. This is my book, which is now available on Amazon, Overcoming ACT Math by Sofia Garcia. So let's go to number 8, and it says, assume 1 British pound equals $1.55, like that's our US currency. Assume 1 euro equals $1.20, that's our US currency. How many euros equates to 15 British pounds? So we want to know euros, how many euros equates to 15 British pounds. So 15, I'm going to call the British pounds, I'm just going to say B for British pounds. So 15 British pounds. And then the relationship between British pounds and American dollars is going to be 1 British pound for every $1.55. This allows me to cross cancel my British pounds, and now I'm just left with the US currency, like how many dollars I have. I also know that $1.20 is related to 1 euro. That would cancel out the dollar and dollar amount there, so then I'm just left with the units I'm interested in, which is euros. So I would just have to multiply and divide across. So 15 times 1.55 divided by 1 times 1 divided by 1.20. So when you put that in your calculator, you are going to get 19.3756. So that's going to be closest to this one. Okay, so it's not 65 questions for the person that said it. It's 60 questions in 60 minutes. So it's 1 minute per question. Okay. So let's go to number 9. It says a map is drawn to scale so that 4 inches is 200 feet. If 2 buildings are 6 inches apart on the map, then how far apart are the buildings in feet? Okay. So let's set up, let's see. So it's a 6 inches that they're apart. So let's do 6 inches times 6 inches apart. Hold on. If 2 buildings are 6 inches apart and 4 inches is 200 feet. So then we could say it's 4 inches is related to 200 feet. That's the relationship that we can use to help us cross cancel the units here. So I can say whatever 6 times 200 divided by 4 is gives me how many feet apart they are. So that would just be, that cancels out, and then that's 300 feet. So A. Good job for everyone that said 300. So let's keep going. Once you go into community college, do you still need to do SAT to transfer to a university after 2 years? Every college is different. There's some colleges that don't even require you to take the SAT or ACT exam, so you have to look at the individual policies. So then let's go to number 10. It says the ratio of x to y is 3 to 1. The ratio of y to z is 7 to 1. Which of the following is equal to all this? So we're trying to find this guy right here. So first let me write out the ratios. So x to 7, 3 to 1. And think of like the little dots as your fraction bar. I find that that's the easiest way for students to like deal with ratios. So this is basically saying x is to y as 3 is to 1. That way with fraction bars. And then if you do the same thing with y to z, like y is to z as 7 is to 1. And then you have now two proportions that can help you solve this problem. So let's start with this guy right here. So that's going to be that 3y is equal to x when you cross multiply. And then, so 3y is equal to x when you cross multiply. And then when I'm trying to find this one, thank you for the tiny dinosaur, guys. Okay, sorry, I got distracted. Okay, so 3y is to x, and then let's get y by itself in each of the cases. So we're going to say y is equal to x over 3 over here. And then we're going to say, okay, let's cross multiply this to get y is equal to 7z. And then actually here, I take that back, I'm going to get z by itself. So then I can plug in something over here for z and for my y over here. So if I get z by itself, I have y over 7 is equal to z. So another way that I could say that is if I write this in terms of the y that I got over here, it would be that y is the same thing as x over 3. So this is really x over 3 over 7 is equal to z. And then that way I've written everything in terms of x. Now I have like only x's equal to my y, my z, and like the x is just regular x. So that way I only have one unknown, which will help me solve this problem. So this becomes x over 21, because this is just divided by 7, which is the same thing as times 1 over 7. So that's how I got x over 21 is equal to z. So now I can just plug these in accordingly into this equation right here. So it would be 4x plus 6 times y, and y we said in terms of x would be x over 3 over, and then it's going to be 8 times, again, y is x over 3, and then plus 7 times x over 21 here. So now when I do that, I'm going to get 4x plus, that's going to be 2x over, and this is going to be 8x over 3 plus, this cross cancels to give you just x over 3. So then this is going to be 6x divided by 9x over 3. So it'd be 6x, and then if you're dividing by this, it's the same as multiplying by the reciprocal, so times 3 over 9x. You could cross cancel these x's, and you can get 18 over 9, which is the same thing as 2. So it would be k. So you could put it in terms of other stuff too. It's just like I was seeing it in terms of x, so then I started doing it in terms of x. There's other ways to do it too. So then let's go to number 11. Oh my gosh, my dog. Okay, so number 11. The hockey team lost 3/4 of their games and tied for 1/8 of their games. What fraction of the games did they win? Okay, so if we want to find the fraction of the games that they won, we would say, okay, we're talking about the whole, and we're taking away, like, all of the games, right, the whole. We're going to take away the games that they lost, and we're going to take away the games that they tied for, and that's going to give us how many wins that they have. So remember, 1 is the same thing as 1 over 1. When we're subtracting with fractions, we have to have a common denominator, so this needs to multiply by 8 on top and bottom, and this needs to multiply by 2 on top and bottom to get that common denominator of 8. So this becomes 8 over 8 minus 6 over 8 minus 1 over 8 tells you how many wins. So that's going to be 8 over 8 minus 7 over 8, and that's just 1/8. So it would be A. So let's go to number 12 now. Number 12 says z varies inversely with x. So remember, we have the inversely proportional formula. Usually it looks like this. But we're talking about instead of y and x, they're giving us z and x. So you have to think instead of like using y and x, you're using y and z essentially. So let's, oops, sorry, I just got a text. Okay, back to focusing. Okay, So that means that we would say z is equal to k over x, and k and x are inversely proportional. Sorry, I'm like mixing up all the letters. So the initial formula is y is equal to k over x, but we're saying that z and x are inversely proportional, so we're replacing the y with the z, essentially. It's basically just saying like these two things always have to be inversely proportional. It doesn't have to be a y and an x. It's just whatever they tell you. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, so that means that I can plug in 6 for x and I can plug in 30 for z, and then I could solve for k. So then that means k is going to be equal to 180. So now this is going to be 180 over x is equal to z. So now I can use that equation to figure out the question part, which says, what is the value of z? So they want me to find out what z is when x increases to 9. So find z when x is 9. So I'm going to say I have 180 over 9, and that's just going to be 20. So it's going to be h. Okay, so let's go to number 13. So it says, James has been keeping track of how much his son has grown over the years. His son has grown 20 inches over the past 10 years. At that rate, how long will it take his son to grow another 30 inches? And if you guys want it to go slower, just remember, like if you need to see a problem again, it goes on YouTube after this. It gets uploaded, so you can slow down videos on YouTube. Because some people like this pace, some people don't. So I do both. So then let's set up a proportion here. So we're going to say that it's 20 inches that his son has grown over the past 10 years is the relationship. So remember, when we're setting up those proportions, if it's directly proportional, we want to have the same units on top and the same units on bottom. You could do it another way if you want. This is just, I like to be consistent with how I teach, so I always do like the top matches, the bottom matches for directly proportional. So then we're going to say, okay, now at that rate, how long will it take his son to grow another 30 inches? So he's going to grow 30 inches in X amount of years. So we're solving for the years. So let's cross multiply. We're going to get 20x is equal to 30 times 10. And then that'll be 20x is equal to 300. Cross out the zeros there. Divide by 2 on each side, and you get x is equal to 15. So 15 years. B. Okay, and let's go to number 14. It says a plank of wood is 2.5 inches by 3 3/4 inches. It is also 10 feet long. Dylan is building a birdhouse for his grandmother and needs to cut as many pieces as possible from the plank of wood. He needs each piece to be 2.5 inches by 3 3/4 inches and 8 inches long. Unfortunately, every time Dylan cuts the plank of wood, he wastes an eighth inch of it. Given the scenario described above, how many 8-inch long pieces will Dylan be able to cut for his grandmother's birdhouse? Okay, so that's a lot of words. So let me just read it really quick. Okay, so we have inches. Okay, so everything's in inches, but one of the things is in feet. So let's change the feet to inches first. So remember, there's 12 inches in 1 foot. So if we want to turn this into inches, this is what we're going to do. We're going to cross out the feet, and we're going to just have inches left as the unit we're interested in. So 10 feet could also be 120 inches. Okay, now every time that he cuts it, he's going to waste an eighth of an inch. Okay, and he wants to cut it into 8-inch long pieces. So if he's cutting it into 8-inch long pieces, and he's losing an eighth of an inch each time, then that means every time we have 8 inches plus the 1/8 inch that he wastes, that we have to divide it into. Okay, so that would be 8 plus 1/8 inch. And then we would just say this is the same thing as 8 over 1. We have to have a common denominator. So we would say that's 64 over 8 plus 1/8 inches. So that's like the 8-inch piece and then the 1/8 inch that he wastes as well every time cutting. So then we're going to say that that's 65 over 8 inches. And then we have to say, okay, it's 120 inches long, and we have to divide it by this amount of inches to see how many of the pieces he can cut it into. So it would be 120 divided by 65 over 8. So then that's 120 over 1 keep, change, flip, keep that, change this to multiplication, flip this to be 8 over 65. And then in the calculator, that's going to be 14.76, yada, yada, yada. So that's going to be F. Where do you get the pen? This is the Inkjoy Papermate Gel Pen, like 0.7. That one. Let me get water really quick, guys. Okay. So, whoops, I skipped a page. On Amazon. So then, let's go to number 15. Given that there are 12 inches in a foot, how many feet are in 144 inches? So 144 inches, and remember there's 12 inches in a foot. So we can cross cancel the inches, so we're just left with the unit we're interested in right here, and that's going to give us 12 feet. So then it's just going to be B. So let's go to number 16. It says 30 sophomores out of 180 total sophomores tried out for chorus. If 210 sophomores enroll in school next year, then how many of them are expected to try out for chorus? Okay, so 30 out of 180. 30 out of 180 sophomores. So 30 out of 180 sophomores is equal to X out of 210. So like a part over whole equals part over whole scenario right here. So we have our proportion set up, so now we just cross multiply, so we should have 210 times 30 is equal to 180x. So get x by itself by dividing by 180 on each side. So then it's just, supposed to say 210 times 30 divided by 180. So when we do that, we are going to get 35, so it's going to be F. So let's go to number 17. It says, a machine in a candy factory produces 35 candy bars per minute. How many candy bars does the machine produce in 6 hours? So 6 hours, and then in 1 hour, there is 60 minutes. And then it says they produce 35 candy bars per minute, so it would be 1 minute they produce 35 candy bars. And this allows me to cross-cancel all the units I don't want to be left with, so I'm just left with the units I want, the candy bars, how many candy bars they produce in those 6 hours. So when I multiply all that together, I'm going to get 12,600, so it would be E. So let's go to number 18. It says, on a scale drawing, 3 inches represents 30 feet. If a garden is 90 feet long, how many inches will it be on the drawing? So 90 feet, and then 30 feet matches up with 3 inches. So to know how many inches, we would cross cancel the feet there, and then do 90 divided by 30 times 3, which is just going to give you 9. So it would be J. This is for ACT, but this will help you on the SAT as well. So let's go to number 19. So it says it takes Jordan 21 days to build 3 bookcases. At this rate, how many days would it take for him to build 7 bookcases? So 21 days is to 3, I'm going to say B for bookcases, is to 3 bookcases, as X days is to 7 bookcases. So I'm going to cross multiply to get 21 times 7 is equal to 3 times X. So then I'm going to get X by itself by dividing by 3 on each side. And then when I do that, I'm going to get, let's see, that's going to be 49. So let's go to number 20 now. It says a small business sells juice to customers at the local farmers market. A 60-ounce batch of juice is going to be used to fill empty juice boxes. A 0.45 ounces of juice will fill each juice box. At most, this batch of juice will fill how many juice boxes full of juice? Okay, so 60 ounces. So we're going to say 60 ounces. And then we have 0.45 ounces is related to 1 juice box, like it fills 1 juice box. So that way we can cross out ounces and just be left with what we're interested in, how many juice boxes we get. So we're going to do 60 divided by 0.45, and that's going to be 133.45 6.3 repeating juice boxes. So that's going to be closest to H. And it's not even that it's closest, it's like it's at most. So it's like how many juice boxes could it fill up? We can't fill up like a third of a juice box. Like the most it could do is 133. So then let's go to, it's okay to miss one. Okay, so then let's go to 21. So it says a smartwatch records the number of steps Lila takes. The smartwatch records that Lila has taken 4,500 steps and that she travels 2.5 feet per step. Approximately how far did Lila travel in miles? So we want to know the distance that she traveled in miles. So 4,500 steps. And we know that there's one step for, there's 2.5 feet in every one step. So that's the relationship there that allows us to cancel out steps. And then we know that there's this relationship right here between feet and miles will allow us to cross out feet. We could say that the feet go on the bottom here so that it cancels out. And it's related to 1 mile. So then we're just left with that unit we're interested on top. So you're going to multiply and divide across to get how many miles. So when we do that in our calculator, we are going to get 2.1, so that's going to be D. Someone asked if I'm a teacher. I did used to be a certified teacher, but not anymore because I don't work in the school system anymore. I work in the private sector for myself, so now I'm like a tutor, not a teacher. So then let's go to number 22. So it said Olivia went to visit the Colosseum in Rome. Then she decided to visit the Pantheon. The car ride from the Colosseum to the Pantheon was 4.2 kilometers in distance and took a total of 18 minutes. What is the approximate average speed in miles per hour of the car? So we want average speed in miles per hour. Now remember, they gave us kilometers, so it's important that we remember this relationship right here to help us out with our units. So speed is equal to distance over time. That's something we know. And we want to convert, let's convert all the kilometers to miles. So let's start with 4.2 kilometers. And there's 1.6 kilometers in 1 mile, so I can use that relationship to help me cancel out these units right here. So I'm just left with miles. So then I'm going to do 4.2 times 1 divided by 1.6. So then that's going to give me 2.625 miles. Now remember, I want miles per hour. They gave me minutes, so I also need to convert the minutes into hours. So 18 minutes. I can use the relationship that there's 60 minutes in 1 hour. That'll allow me to cross cancel out these units I don't want, and I'm just left with the hours unit that I am interested in. And that's going to be equal to 0.3 hours. So now I have this many miles and this many hours. Remember, distance over time gives you speed. So that's the distance, that's the time. That'll give me speed in miles per hour. So the speed is going to be equal to 2.625 over 0.3. So let me plug that into the calculator, and that's going to give me 8.75 miles per hour. And it says which one is, it's approximate. So like what's the approximate speed? So that's approximately 9. So it would be G. Do you do PSAT practice? I focus on SAT and ACT for the lives. But I do like tutor in PSAT. Okay. So let's go to number 23. It says, Greg biked at a speed of 5 miles per hour for 20 minutes and then jogged at a speed of 3 miles per hour for 10 minutes. What was the average speed for this entire time period in miles per hour? Again, speed is equal to distance over time. So we need to find the distance, the total distance, and divide by the total time. So let's talk about like when he's biking. When he's biking, he, if we think about this in terms of hours, 20 minutes is a third of an hour, and he does 5 miles per hour. So if he does 5 miles per hour, and he's only traveled for a third of that time, a third of an hour, he's traveled 5/3 miles when he's biking. And we're going to do the same thing to figure out how much what's the distance he travels for when he's jogging. So when he's jogging, 10 minutes is going to be a sixth of an hour. And then we're going to say, okay, it's 3 miles per hour. He's done a sixth of that. So that's going to be 1/2 miles. So this is the distance, the total distance if we add those up. Remember, speed is equal to distance over time. Thank you guys for the likes. Please share this with your friends who need SAT and ACT help. So then we're going to now do the distance, the total distance on top, 5/3 plus 1/2, and divide it by the total time. Remember, we want it in miles per hour, so we have to think in hours. 1/3 of an hour plus 1/6 of an hour. Now we have to have like denominators, so I'm going to multiply by 2 on top and bottom, by 3 on top and bottom here, so I have a common denominator of 6. So that's going to be 10/6 plus 3/6. And on the bottom, I'm going to multiply by 2 here and here, so I can have a common denominator of 6 on the bottom. So it's going to give me 2/6 plus 1/6. So then that's going to be on top 13/6, and on bottom I'm going to get 3/6. And remember, a fraction bar is the same as division, so this is saying 13/6 divided by 3/6. I'm going to keep change flip, so I'm going to keep 13/6, I'm going to change division to multiplication, and I'm going to flip this to be 6 over 3. These cancel, and then I'm just left with 13 over 3. Oops, that's supposed to be a 3. So then that would be D right there. So now let's go to number 24. So for number 24, it says the ratio of Carla's weight to Dave's weight is 6:5. So let's use like C and D for Carla to Dave. So Carla to Dave matches up with 6:5. And then the ratio of Dave's weight to Eric's weight, so D to E for Dave to Eric, is going to be 3:4. And we want to know what's the ratio of Carla's weight to Eric's weight. So this is what we're solving for right here. Now remember, think about this in terms of, think of the dots as the fraction bar is the easiest way to think about this for most students. So C is to D as 6 is to 5, and D is to E as 3 is to 4. And then we're solving for what C over E is, basically. We want to know that. So let's think, how can we get C over E? Well, if I do C over D times D over E, these cross cancel and they give me C over E. So let's do that. Let's replace these with what they're equal to. So C over D is the same thing as 6 over 5. D over E is the same thing as 3 over 4, so that should give me CE when I multiply. So I'm going to cross cancel. 2 goes into 4 2 times. It goes into 6 3 times. So then 3 times 3 is 9. 5 times 2 is 10. So it's going to be 9/10 is equal to CE. Remember that fraction bar can be replaced with those dots to form the ratio. So it's going to be 9 to 10. So it would be H. So let's go to number 25. So for number 25, it says that the ratio of Linda's test score to her friend's test score is 7-3. The sum of their scores is 60. What is Linda's test score? So we're solving for Linda's test score. So let's say that Linda to F for her friend. Linda to her friend is going to be 7-3. So if we write that out with the fraction bars, it's L over F is equal to 7 over 3. And then let's cross multiply to get 3L is equal to 7F. And then let's get F by itself to say that 3L over 7 equals F. And then we would say that L plus F is equal to 60. So like the sum, meaning like when we add their scores, L for Linda's score plus F for her friend's score, we should get 60. Now we have what F is in terms of L. Remember, we're trying to solve for what L is. So I could just plug that in for F right here. Instead of saying F, I could say, oh, it's the same thing as 3L over 7. And that has to equal 60. Now all I have to do is solve for L. This is the same thing as L over 1, so I just multiply by 7 on top and bottom to get a common denominator. So that would be 7L over 7 plus 3L over 7 is equal to 60. So then that's going to be 10L over 7 is equal to 60. So then that's going to be that 10L is equal to 420. We can cross out the 0 on each side, so we get L is equal to 42. Remember, L is Linda's score. That's what we were solving for, so it would be D. So let's go to number 26. It says, Sadie recently had a birthday party and got a bunch of money from various family members as birthday presents. Sadie will use 1/8 of the money for new clothes and 1/7 of the money for new books. After buying the new clothes and new books, what fraction of the money remains? So if we think of the whole as like all of her money, one whole, we would say we're going to subtract, to find the remaining amount, we would have the whole, and we're going to subtract the amount she uses for clothes, which is 1/8. And then we're going to subtract the amount that she uses for new books. And then we're going to have left over whatever's remaining, what fraction of the money is remaining. Remember, this is the same thing as 1/1. We have to have a common denominator in order to subtract fractions. So I know that I can multiply by 56 on top and bottom to get a denominator of 56 there. I can multiply by 7 top and bottom here to get 56 on bottom. And I can multiply by 8 top and bottom here to get 56 on bottom. So then I have 56 over 56 minus 7 over 56 minus 8 over 56. So then that's going to be 56 over 56 minus 15 over 56. So then that's going to be 41 over 56. So it would be J. So now let's go to number 27. It says a rectangular table that is 7 feet and 3 inches long is cut into 2 equal pieces. What is the length of each piece in inches? So let's draw the table before it's cut up. So the table before it's cut up, it's 7 feet and 3 inches long. And we want to know the length in inches. So it's 7 feet and then it's going to be cut in half. So like you might want to draw like a little dotted line to remind you that it's going to be cut in half. So let's turn the feet part into inches and then add on the 3 extra inches. So let's say 7 feet, how many inches is that? Well, in 1 foot, there's going to be 12 inches. So that allows me to cross cancel these right here. So I'm just left with the unit I'm interested in, inches. So I multiply and I get 84 inches. Then I have to add on those extra 3 inches to find out what the total length of the table was. So that gives me 87 inches. But remember, that was the whole table before they cut it. They're going to cut it into 2 equal pieces. So we have to divide it by 2 to find the length of each of those pieces. So it's going to be 87 divided by 2, which is going to be 43.5. So that's going to be B right there.